Can you imagine being in one of those as they roll over? That's a big freaking truck.
Dude, I've only been in one thing that ever rolled over, and it was a four-wheeler.
Everybody's on crack, it seems like.
Yeah, that's a high-paced environment, sure. For those of you who don't know. Yeah. Right, and not to mention, like you made the joke about I was trusting eating gas station food. Listen, gas station food probably ain't good for you.
Dude, there isn't a single thing in a gas station that's actually good for you.
We gotta fall back real quick to a previous episode we were supposed to touch back on and we didn't. So real fast right now. I want to just get it out there. I believe you had a very brief apology to me because back in our weather episode, you were real convinced that cold was killing more people than heat.
Oh, yeah.
And when we did our research, what did we find out? We said we were going to have a whole other half-hour episode on it and talk shit about stuff we saw on the internet. What did we find out, John?
It doesn't.
Doesn't. That's right. It doesn't. Was it even close at all?
It wasn't even remotely
close
fucking close.
All right, so, yeah, real quick.
I was wrong. I was totally wrong.
Thank you. I appreciate you putting that on audio, buddy.
Yeah.
That's down for posterity now. I know John and I said after the weather episode we were going to go back and we were going to have a whole long one about it, but it turns out there's no argument at all.
Nope.
Heat is way worse for people than cold.
Oh,
so,
yeah, bigger than life.
Yeah, if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and check that one out. You'll know what we were talking about.
It's like 3-1 or some shit like that.
It was a pretty significant difference.
If not more than that, 5-1 or some shit.
Yeah, it was a pretty significant difference. And the cold one also included road fatalities, which kind of skewed the numbers even more in your favor, even though it still was as many.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm not going to beat a dead horse, folks. I just want to get that out of the way. We promised we were going to go back to it. That's us going back.
Thanks for bringing that up, fucker.
You're very welcome, sir. Welcome to the job trailer, man. How are you? It's good to have you back, buddy.
Fuck you a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, I can't say I blame you at all. We're going to try to start every episode like that for a while. People do seem to like the arguments.
Yeah, they do.
That happens.
Yeah.
So, yes, welcome back to the job trailer, buddy. How are you? How was your week?
It was good, man. I enjoyed it. How was yours?
Not a bad week this week. I'm happy to say we're recording on a slightly different day today. We're recording on a Thursday for a change. I am off, as every good Midwesterner does, to your local Minnesota State Fair tomorrow.
Oh.
Yeah, so I'm taking the day off to do that. For those of you who don't know me really, really well, which is a lot of you, I don't like big crowds. I'll look past it for a hockey game or a big sporting event, but man, if my wife didn't enjoy the state fair as much as she did, I like the food, don't get me wrong, but I doubt that I would go and hang out with, a couple million people over the week or whatever. But so that's coming up tomorrow. But it does make me feel very Midwestern because I do have to say, even though it's a lot of people and I find that a bit much, it's incredible, dude.
Do you ride your bike? Ride your motorcycle?
To the fair?
Yeah.
Hey, listen,
better parking.
Listen, man, I totally agree with what you're saying about the parking or whatever, right? As everybody's heard, we just kind of finished the remodel of the upstairs of the house with the exception of the bathroom, right? Mm-hmm. We're going to go and spend a couple bucks on decorations and trinkets.
We're going to buy some shit.
Yeah, we're going to buy some stuff. So I want to take the truck down so I don't limit myself on what I don't want to carry back on the bus or take on the motorcycle, whatever.
Right.
But yes, your advice is very, very good. So I'm excited about that, man. That my whole week has sort of just been leading up to, I wonder how much we could really spend at the state fair if we were just trying to do stuff. And I'm starting to think back over the years of all the stuff and options that are there. Like, man, we better be careful we don't spend too much at the state fair.
People got to understand the state fair is a town.
Oh, yeah, right.
Like, it is an actual town by itself. Streets, roads. I mean.
Yeah. So, yeah, for everybody who doesn't know, for the out of state people who are listening, the state fair here shuts down a bunch of blocks in the middle of the city of St. Paul for 10 days?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It fucks everything.
It's not a fairground with a bunch of tents and rides for the kids.
No.
It's a big whole event. A lot of the structures and rides and things are there all year round. They just don't use them the rest of the year or whatever, right?
Yep.
It's amazing, folks. If you get a chance to go to one of the big state fairs, I know Minnesota claims they have one of the best ones in the country. Yep. I believe that food, games, fun, drinks, music, laughs,
everything on a stick.
Everything on a stick. Lumberjack show. Right? It's real state fair, quote unquote shit, but it's a lot.
And
it
takes up blocks.
It takes up blocks. Yeah. All the livestock and everything. Like, it's a real live state fair. Right? So I encourage everybody who goes, but that's how my week has gone. I know that was a long answer to a very simple question.
That's all right.
So Sorry, a little quick tangent there. Welcome, everybody, to the I Shower After Work podcast, a podcast for all things trades and trades related. Obviously, you heard John and I are back in the job trailer again. You said you'd had a good week, buddy. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, it's nice to be back in the job trailer east.
East side, yes.
East side.
We've now differentiated the two job trailers, east and west, and ironically, Canada, at least where I'm from, is to the east, so that'll be real easy for me to remember. It'll be east side, west side here.
There you go.
Today, buddy, what were you thinking you wanted to talk about with the folks?
Well, so you and I spent a lot of time driving.
We spent a lot of time behind the windshield, yep.
And this is a little bit of a throwback rant to the episode 17 of Surrounded by Shit Drivers.
I remember that one now.
So that one was more of a rant.
That was a bitch fest. Sure,
that was definitely a bitch fest.
Yeah.
So figured we'd revisit that a little bit and actually see what people are doing and seeing what's actually happening a little bit. What's some numbers?
Yeah, less of the crazy drivers and more of the actual, well, I guess, benefits and drawbacks of being on the road.
Right.
Because there is both, right?
Right.
Okay.
And I mean, no matter if you're driving to and from the job site, right, which we do a lot.
Right.
Or you work out of town, which I know a lot of guys do.
That's for sure.
They're forever travelers.
Yep.
Right. You're going to see some wild shit.
Yes, you are.
Going down the road,
Yes,
right?
You are.
From passenger vehicles to commercial vehicles to you name it. But you learn some lessons. Mm-hmm. You make a couple of bucks because usually traveling pays a little bit better
we'll talk about
with
that.
some shift differential stuff, some per diem kind of things. But it can be a hassle. But this is the time where it's going to be like the ultimate construction worker pro con list on driving and traveling out of town.
Oh, hell yeah, it is, buddy. Yeah, this is where the real pro, you said it perfectly, pro versus con list comes down to with construction workers. Yeah. Right. This is where money can be made and decisions got to be made because there's great things and there's sucky things too.
Right.
So,
but first,
yes, I'm listening, buddy.
Right. Let's recap a little bit of the rant, please.
Yeah, definitely.
I fucking hate fucking drivers on the road. Most of you guys drive like fucking assholes.
Yes. It's fucking brutal out there, man. We see a lot more of it because, especially as construction workers, we have not even talk about working outside town for now. That's one other thing. But even our day to day, it's very rarely 5 minutes down the road.
Yeah.
Even 20 minutes or half an hour.
Yep.
Yeah. The average construction worker is putting on 3 times as many miles a week as office workers.
Yep. I put 40,000 miles on my car in a year.
John don't travel in his car. That's work stuff. And a couple of quick trips. Like, yeah, for sure. Yes, that's what it comes down to.
Before I had my company truck.
Right. Yeah, we'll shout out to our companies for that. We're going to talk about that part of this too.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to, man. There's so many, we have so many more opportunity just time and mile-wise to see funny things, ridiculous things, terrible drivers. Like I said, we're just touching on that, right? We already talked about it. The roads are full of fucking morons. Right?
Unfortunately.
But today, a different tangent today, folks. That's just, we're aware that we talked about the world being terrible and full of drivers, but kind of a different list today of what it's like and some of the factors of pros and cons, like you said, buddy, of taking not only more time to get to your job on average, but then also the people who work on the road and travel, like you said.
Right.
Between myself, who's done a little bit of time on the road, and as you said, some people are perpetual travelers.
Right.
Right. So let's get after it, man.
All right. Where do you want to start?
Okay. Let's start with what it's like being on the road on average so much more than the common day-to-day office worker. All right. For every extra minute or mile that you spend on the road, a day, a week, a year, your odds of having not only seen some wild stuff, right? We'll talk about that later, but being in an accident.
Right. Actually involved in an accident.
Yeah. They talk about sometimes about how construction workers tend to have more accidents. It's not that we're bad drivers. We're on the road literally more time, more distance.
Right.
That's a big thing to start with, right? I know it's a tough thing to talk about, but as I say, whether it's accidents or fatalities, people who work in construction tend to be higher in those percentages.
Right.
And it factors in directly real quick to the fact that we pay more on average for insurance.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Real quick, that's not only more accidents, which again, I make the comparison that's because we're on the road more, but your vehicle is outside more that could get bumped into somebody. Weather could damage your car. It's all those factors together, right?
Right.
So anyways, that's that. The funnest thing I saw was, as far as statistics and crashes and things goes, it's tough to get crashes because they have so many differentiations of what's considered a crash.
I dialed that in a little bit.
Did you? Okay, so I'll get this part out real quick. Then you can lay your part on me. What I found was fatalities, and I've got a list going back to 1899.
Oh my God, you went back that far?
I found one that went to 1899.
Wow.
Compiled from a few different cities and towns and county organizations over the years that eventually all this information was collated and compiled by the National Transport Safety Administration.
Okay.
Right? So, again, we've said before, can you trust government agencies? Yeah. But we're going to go with their information.
All numbers can be skewed. Let's
Right.
just put that out there right now.
Exactly. So they're talking about, and all these numbers are based on fatalities. And I know this is a big number, folks, but think of how many people on the road every day. Fatalities per 100 million motor vehicle miles.
Okay.
So if there's 1 million people that live in a state and they travel 20 miles a day, that means an average of 1 death every week, just to have a comparison in your head, okay?
Yep.
It was as high as, so the first reel, like I said, 1899, there was 26 fatalities. You can picture these cars, right?
Oh, yeah.
Steam Model T, probably
Model A,
before
Model
that,
Ts.
right?
Yeah.
Looks like it's going to fall apart at the seams. Charlie Chaplin driving in black and white.
They
grainy
didn't have
video.
roads.
You know what
They
we're
had
talking
dirt
about.
path.
Yeah, no audio, cobblestone. Right. So there's 26 deaths that first year. I got to think, this is so long ago, they can't say the exact fatalities per million because they don't have any idea who. There probably was not even 1 million people driving.
Right.
It was probably way less than that, right?
Right.
All right, we jump forward. Man, pick a year in between. Let's just bebop here quick.
All right, let's go 1930.
1930. Okay, so 1930, that number jumps all the way up to 197.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and this, there is a trend here that I will tell you about, folks. Okay, so that's 1930, goes up to that. Jump ahead. What do you want?
1975.
75. Now that's 1,327 per million miles motor vehicles traveled.
That's quite the jump.
That's quite a jump, right? That's
Right.
And that's a little jump, but that means that's 40 years, right? Now, I did look this up. We didn't pick the exact same dates, but we were in the same 2 decades, so that helps out.
Oh, funny. Okay.
That helps out. Here's how those statistics break down, buddy. The number of deaths there that goes up, that was times 5 plus a hair. It was a little more than 5 times as many in that stretch, right? What percentage of vehicles, how do you think that went up as far as how many more vehicles were on the road versus 30?
Oh, probably pretty close. Almost right in line, I would imagine.
No, I mean the number of vehicles on the road in the 30s versus the number of vehicles on the road in 75.
Oh, triple.
Wow, you're fucking generous, buddy. It was 27 times as many vehicles on the road. Okay.
Wow.
40-something year stretch there, right? Okay.
Right.
So let's jump ahead. We'll pick one in between here. What do we got? 2,000. 2,000 seems like a good number.
Yep.
The amount of driving went up by 9 times. It only went up to 2,800, let's say. Real close to 2,800.
That's over double.
No, that was
You
another.
said 1,300.
It's another third, maybe a half, right? A little more than half, actually.
Okay.
But the vehicle number didn't go up quite that much. It was double the amount of vehicles from before.
Okay.
So as you can see here, this is the correlation. As more vehicles got on the road, yes, the deaths went up, but the safety gets better. So there's this ebb and flow.
Right.
All right. So I won't beat that dead horse. I will say real quick before we move on, though, the funniest thing I did see was the worst years. And as far as worst years, I mean the percentage of on the road deaths.
Yep. COVID.
2020 and 2021. Between those 2 years, it was up an average, not an average, it was up by 18.4% over 2 years. And then is starting to drop. They only have up to 2022 here, but I think it's pretty good because I got from 1899, folks. That was a way back.
Right.
It's gone down a couple percentage now. The interesting thing about that was the average deaths for that, but there is an asterisk beside it because so many less people were on the road. and they didn't know how many less people because they had no way to track it statistically over time.
Right.
It happened all of a sudden.
Yep. Well, I can fucking tell you while that was going on, I was still on the goddamn road.
So was I.
And people were driving like fucking maniacs because there was no traffic.
Listen, brother, right at the start of 2020, right in the middle of that spring, I was on a solar site outside of town. Straight shot, no traffic, an hour.
Yep.
It was kind of nice during the dark times. I drove home a bunch of times from there and never let my foot off the gas once.
Yeah.
There was something nice about that.
Yep.
Right? But somehow during that time, less cars, less traffic, deaths way, way, way up.
Yep.
So I don't know what the correlation is there, whether people were crazy during COVID or what, but
So I got different numbers.
Yeah, no, give it. Yeah, right. Lay it on me. Yeah,
now,
the internet is
right. So I focused mine on commercial vehicles.
Okay, great.
Okay. Because with construction, we drive a lot of commercial vehicles.
Absolutely.
And so these are vehicles that have a 10,000 pound gross or above weight rating. So F-150s, stuff like that, it's not in this list. It's F-250s, 350s and up, the 3/4 tons and up vehicles all the way to semis. Okay.
I gotcha.
So, and this is only 2022 because let's face it, it takes a hot minute for them to actually compile information year to year.
Yeah. You'll notice, folks. Yeah. It's always a couple years behind because it's hard to get the new stuff. Yeah. Go ahead, bud.
So 168,320 truck accidents in 2022.
Say that again.
168,320 truck accidents.
Okay. Keep going.
Okay. Truck accidents. This isn't passenger car. And that's in the US, right? So 4,766 of those were fatal with one or more persons. Okay.
So slightly more than a quarter.
Right.
That's a lot.
Right. And so California and Texas and Florida were the biggest hitters of that.
Shocker.
Right. California at 13,603, Texas at 19,424. And I'm blaming that on the openness and size of Texas. People are hauling ass. Right.
Also, speaking from where I'm from, man, there's sometimes you get in places where there's so much distance between one town and the next. It might be a fatality because in the city they would have saw you or a suburb and you were sitting there for half an hour before somebody drove by. Okay. Sorry to step on you, buddy.
Right. Nope. You're 100% right. So now 76,000 individuals roughly were injured in truck accidents in 2022. Injured, not fatal, just injured.
Right.
All right. So roughly 71% of them are from occupants and other vehicles, while 27% of that number were fatalities of occupants of the larger trucks, and 2% are other individuals such as pedestrians or bicyclists.
2%'s a fair number, actually, yeah.
So what that says, right? 71% of injuries are from occupants and other vehicles. That means, just so everybody fucking understands, the commercial trucks are winning.
Oh, of course they are.
People need to fucking realize that. They fucking, and I seen you guys today. Don't fucking lie to me. You know who you are on 494 in Minneapolis, Twin Cities area. People are cutting semis off left and right, cutting commercial vehicles off left and right, and then they're having to slam on their brakes. And that's why. 71%, I understand. People are dumb.
Oh, dude, I was showing you the video before we got started today. Some poor person in a cement truck. They were going around a turn on an on-ramp and they tipped that thing over somehow. I saw the aftermath. I didn't see the event actually happen. But I mean, those people are professional drivers. Yes, sometimes they were coming in hot, might have taken a turn too strong, but more likely some jerk off cut them off.
Right.
It's a numbers game is what I was getting at with this. Yeah, we're just on the road so much more. And I mean, if I'm going to check it out, hopefully whoever was involved in the thing, EMS was there. It might have just been a standard thing. They showed up because of a rollover. Hopefully the person is okay that was driving in that. If they are, I'm going to post a video.
I hope so.
Yeah, if they will, I'll post a video up on the internet. And if they don't, I'm not going to put it up there because that's not what we do here.
No.
But yeah, shout out to whoever that was. It was not a great way to start your Thursday. I can tell you that.
Can you imagine being in one of those as they roll over? That's a big freaking truck.
Dude, I've only been in one thing that ever rolled over, and it was a four-wheeler.
Yeah.
Not even comparable.
I've rolled a vehicle, but rolling a rig like that, I've driven rigs that size.
And
Dude, if I were to lay one over, I'd shit myself as it went over.
Yeah. Oh, of course. No. The EMS, once they realize you're breathing and not dying right there, the first thing they do should be hand you a set of generic drawers. Like, here, go ahead.
Yeah, give me some scrubs and some new underwear.
Get in the back of the van and change. We know you shit yourself. Like, yeah, of course they did. Yeah, I would hope that's what goes on. If I was an EMS guy, I'd be carrying that in my bag just in case. Like, hey, man, that must have been scary as shit. Do you need these? Like, yeah. For sure, buddy. I didn't say, I should clarify, tip over, like you said. Person laid it down. It didn't roll over. Right. But I mean, even then, that's a lot of weight on an on-ramp turn. We know the grade isn't great on those sometimes.
No.
People don't realize when they're driving in your own car, that's not a heavy, top-heavy vehicle. Like, if we come into some of those we got heavy vehicles, we got stuff that's up high. Like, our center of gravity is way higher, even though it's a heavier vehicle.
Right.
Man, you're not paying attention. You can put one of those in the ditch.
Fast.
For sure, right?
Fast, right?
Again, we promise, though, this won't be a bitch fest about drivers today. This is something different, folks.
Well, and I want people to understand, too, the most dangerous vehicle, as far as commercial vehicles are on the road, is they call them deadhead and semis, where it's just the truck. There's no trailer. Some call it bobtailing.
Yep.
Deadheading, whatever you want to do. Those trucks are the most dangerous trucks, commercial vehicles on the road, because they're not designed to run without a trailer. They cannot stop. If they lock up their brakes, they bounce. They don't stop. They just bounce.
Yeah, if you haven't seen one of those things hop down the road before, you haven't been driving very long.
Yeah. Stay away from them. Give them plenty of girth, because they're usually hauling ass. They're doing the speed limit, if not over.
For sure.
Because they can.
Well, and on the point of what we're getting at here, I know I mentioned earlier, I just want to clarify. I didn't mean to make it sound so negative that construction workers on average have more accidents. Mm-hmm. But you got to think too, this is the point I neglected to point out. We not only work varied schedules, we start early when not only we, but sometimes the other drivers on the road might be a little tired, not 100% awake yet, right? Yep. We also work multiple shifts, sometimes in the same day. Yep. We might have worked late and had a long day and are now fatigued. Third shift, out of town. Right. This stuff all factors into this, right? They look at it as a negative way on your insurance and stuff like that. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you're working in construction, check out if you worked in another industry with your insurance company, if your insurance would go down. And I bet you a lot of time the answer is yes.
Probably.
Because when I bring up the fact that I work for an electrical company, they said, oh, do you use your own vehicle or a company vehicle? How far are you on average? You're telling me you don't need that information to pick out my policy?
Yep.
What if I didn't say that? What if I just said I worked in an office around the corner?
Right.
Check it out, folks. All right.
Right.
That's my rant for the day. So
I would never tell my insurance company that I only drive my truck 10 miles a week.
Right. Right. We're always honest with corporations and government officials in this podcast. It's all satire, folks. So that being said, man, let's take a slight tangent here if it's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Have you spent, obviously you've spent lots of time driving to job sites, whether it was back where you used to live before in the hills or here now, okay? Mm-hmm. Same thing here. But have you had much time working out of town, like on the road, not at home, staying somewhere, not in your own bed?
It was a short stint, but I did work in the oil fields while I was living back in the hills.
How the fuck was that? I've heard some stories, buddy.
That was horrible.
Horrible. Tell me about horrible. Why is the gas field horrible?
Fucking train wreck. Oil field, not gas field. Well, I guess you get both, but yeah. No, the remoteness of where you're at, because the oil fields aren't. When I was up there, they weren't by major cities.
How far away from the next major city? Where were you, by the way?
So I was based out of Sydney, Montana, which is north.
Never even heard of it. That tells me something.
It's northeast side of Montana. I think I was an hour from the border.
Okay.
Right. So I was driving where I was living in South Dakota. I'd head up Sunday night. And I was driving 8.5, 9 hours to get there in the dark, working for the week and then driving home. And out there, it's a totally different ballpark. The oil field is a different game because everybody's on crack, it seems like.
That's a high-paced environment. Sure. For those of you who don't know. Yeah. It's not chill at the fucking oil fields.
And there is a lot of drugs and a lot of horrible shit that goes on out there. God bless the guys that were able to do it and keep clean, because they made a shit ton of money. and they made a shit ton of money.
Well, it's part of the reason I brought it up, buddy.
Yep. They were working out of town, away from home, long days. I mean, the guys out there are working 12, 14, 16, 18-hour days and getting up and doing it all over again. They're not eating. They're sleeping like shit. You know, that's just a different game.
It's perfect. So that's what I was getting at, man. There are some benefits to working on the road.
Mm-hmm.
Like, certainly, right?
I've known one guy that was in the oil field. He literally retired when he was 35. Retired because he did it right.
Right.
He worked out there when he started when he was 18 until he was 35. Done.
God love him.
House paid off. Vehicles paid off. Money in the bank. Money in your retirement. Done.
You remember that guy's name?
No.
Whoever you are, man. If you know who you are, shout out.
It was 15 years ago.
We don't remember stuff from that far ago. No, there's been too much whiskey and too many head injuries since then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not so bad. I haven't spent a ton of time on the road, I must say. I know lots of guys in many shops that I've worked with and friends that I've known over the years who've spent long stretches working out of town. And sometimes, I mean, we're in the Midwest. Sometimes out of town, theoretically, is from your shop. But I know a guy who it's probably closer for him to go from his house to his, air quotes, out of town job than it would be to go to the shop or to get into town, because he just already had, him and his wife already happened to work out of town, right?
Oh, sure.
Charlie M., if you're listening, buddy, he's a perfect example of that. It's way easier for him to do that.
Oh, sure.
But in my case, I mean, I think the longest stretch I had was Sunday night. I mean, going down, like you said, drive back Sunday, stay the night, work Monday through Friday, try to get done early Friday if you can, head back in, just home for I did 6 weeks. It's not a long time.
Yep.
It's not a fair comparison to the people who, during some of the bad economic times, have spent months and years at a state and away from their families in this thing, right? I appreciate all that, folks. I also appreciate that I learned enough in a few weeks of doing this to know, man, I don't want to do this for years.
Right.
But you can make a few bucks.
You can if you work it right.
And as you said, the people working 12, 14, 16 hours, they're already there. They're already away from their home or their family if they've got one, or their friends or their life.
Yep.
May as well make a bunch of bucks while I'm here. I'm already tired. I may as well keep working. I get it.
And it goes back to the saying, right? Idle hands do the devil's work. Keep yourself fucking busy. If you're away from home, don't let your mind fucking spin, because you'll go batshit crazy. Just stay working.
Right. Or just make poor decisions. How many dudes have you talked to over the years that made a poor relationship decision while working out of town for a few weeks?
Right.
Yeah, come on, right?
Right.
That's...
Or they develop a drinking problem.
Or
I mean...
Yeah, anything. Gambling. I've heard gambling problems, alcohol, drugs, women.
Yep.
Or men. I haven't actually heard any women who said they got into that stretch when they were working out of town. But dudes cheating on their spouse or whatever, it's tough. You got to be focused working out of town. So, you make a good point, man. Keep those hands busy. And if you're going to make some money at the same time, well, there you go. That's something, right? It brings up a quick side note, if you don't mind, my man.
Mm-hmm.
Not just working out of town, because we're talking about just the fact that we're on the road so much that it's a different animal for construction workers. Man, how do you do with eating on the job? I mean, I'm a weird case. I don't like to eat during the day, because if I eat after 9 a.m., it's that post-lunch grogginess for me all the time during the day. I usually don't eat until I get home at night, and then I have a meal and a snack and a couple of whiskeys, and I go to bed, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're an eating lunch guy, right?
Oh, yeah.
Have you been really diligent about taking your lunch? Because I see so many different variations on the job sites of, hey, this guy brings his lunch all the time, every single day. That guy's always going to McDonald's. How are you over the years, man?
Mix of both.
A mix of both? Okay.
Yeah, I get burnt out on sandwiches and shit, and so I won't eat lunch for a while. I'll do what you do. Come home, make a decent meal, eat.
Just not bother during the day.
Right.
Okay.
But then I have long stretches that, I'll pack a lunch every day. When I was doing service work, I was swinging into either the freaking gas station or...
That's where I'm at, man. When I am hungry...
Like a campground raccoon.
Right. That's perfect, man. That's exactly the representation, I think, of how I eat.
Yeah.
I have the occasion, so let's say in a regular 5-day week, 2 days a week, as I'm going from one place to the other, I'll stop and get crackers or a couple of hard-boiled eggs or a chip and another energy drink and fuck off down the road and keep working, right?
You trust it? You trust hard-boiled eggs from a gas station?
Listen, man, there's people who eat gas station sushi. I think I'm on the safe part of this deal, right?
I only say that because you said that to me when I told you I did the same thing.
I know. I realized that happened. No, I was a little leery about some of the stuff they cook at the gas stations because I stop at the same gas station almost every work day.
Yeah.
Get a drink, grab a bottle of water for the day, get some smokes, whatever, right?
Yep.
I see the same people all the time. I'm sure they're highly educated, intelligent people, but I mean, if they're serving me my food and their only way to figure that out is a analog dial temperature probe they're using,
Yep.
I'm pretty leery about eating stuff at the gas station. But now that hard-boiled egg thing, they come in cooked.
Yeah. They're prepackaged.
By a company who doesn't want to get sued. That's why I'm okay. All right.
That's why I eat them.
Yeah. But I'm always so impressed, man. Like, there was a guy I've worked with for years. I'm pretty sure he's still with my company now, but I haven't seen him since I switched over from field service. His spouse, and he's a great Russian guy. I won't call him out because he might not like that. His spouse made him lunch every single day, packed it old school, right?
Yep.
And he was a slightly older guy, right? And we always used to be so impressed, like, man, that's amazing. Like, really?
There's a lot of guys on the crew that I was on that was still happening.
Yeah. Listen, God love their boyfriend or girlfriend, whoever's taking care of that. Good on you for being a little old school in that way, knowing that they're tired and didn't want to do it or whatever. And at least this way they had a chance to have a healthy something meal, right?
Yeah.
When the alternative was like we were just talking about going to the gas station or going to McDonald's or whatever, right? God love those people. I remember this was a number of years back. I came home from working with that guy, and I was on the site with that guy for a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We were all joking about this, and I made the joke to my wife, like, listen, this guy shows up every day, and his wife had already taken care of all his meals for the week and stuff. And I said it kind of half as a joke, but in my head, deep down in my soul, I'm like,
that'd be kind of nice.
that'd be cool, right? Like that guy's already taken care of that. And I remember her looking me in the eye and going, I got you. And me being proud and kind of impressed, like, really? She's like, don't you worry about it. Came home the next day. Hey, that thing we talked about with your lunches, was glad you brought it up. Don't ever be scared to talk to me about anything. I got you taken care of. It's all in the fridge. I opened the fridge up and I didn't see anything that looked remote. She's like, no, up in the freezer. Yeah, 5 frozen lunches to put in the microwave for the next week. In retrospect, one of the funniest things she's ever done.
That's great.
Yeah, that was a really great subtle fuck you that as a person who's been married for a while can look back and go, good for you. Like,
Right.
I had no right to say anything.
I brought it up with my wife too. Beautiful soul that she is. I'm like, hey, it'd be really cool. Like, this is kind of nice because, she literally, words verbatim out of her mouth. You get up too fucking early. I ain't waking up that early.
And then how do you dig in if you really want to have a healthy relationship without emerging in your sleep and say, we could just do it the night before? Yeah, that's going to go over great. Yeah, you don't do that.
You keep your mouth shut and go, yeah, I figured that.
Yeah, for those people out there who have that relationship with their spouse, good on you. It ain't working out for me. But yeah, so I was just kind of curious about that, man. Yeah, I don't eat during the day, but I've always seen like a real good mix. I ran into a guy today, actually, John A. You know who you are. We all call you Hillbilly, buddy. I hadn't seen him in a while. We were joking about a job site we were on years ago because he and the guy running the job had like a 21 workday stretch where they went to McDonald's every day.
Oh, God.
And the foreman guy, he got the exact same order every day for all those days in a row. 10-piece chicken nuggets, French fries, and some weird spicy jalapeno something sauce they had at the time. Man, that guy ate the same thing every day for 21 working days.
For a month.
Right?
Oh, my God.
When take 5 minutes at home, pack your lunch. But again, I'm guilty of it too. I don't pack my lunch at night. So anyway, side tangent. I'm sorry, folks. But that is part of the thing about working for a living and working on the road. Like,
dude, it sounds kind of kiddish. I mean, my go-to for my lunches, honestly, when I'm packing sandwiches, peanut butter and jelly. Man, they last forever.
It's so easy, right?
Yeah.
And again,
and if I don't eat them that day, if I don't eat one, because I always pack 2, there's 2 of everything in my lunchbox. Literally 2 of everything. But if I don't eat one of them, I just throw it in the fridge. Eat it the next day.
So tangent on a tangent here, buddy. Do you put peanut butter on both pieces of bread and the jelly in
I
between
do it the right
so
way.
it doesn't get...
Exactly.
Listen, young people, if you're paying attention to this and you're going to get into the trades, you're even going to work for a living, you put peanut butter on both pieces of bread and you put the jelly in between, and it keeps your sandwich from getting soggy. Pull your whole fucking life together.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Fucking grow up a little bit.
If that's my posterity off the internet and teach that one lesson, I'd be happy with it. But
Right.
I'd be happy with it.
And it's great because if you get tired of one sandwich, you just change the jelly flavor and you got all new sandwiches.
Right. And not to mention, like you made the joke about I was trusting eating gas station food. Listen, gas station food probably ain't good for you.
Dude, there isn't a single thing in a gas station that's actually good for you. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day is not good for you either.
That's also very true.
Just saying.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can get in the habit of making your lunch, do that early in your career. Please, 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 please. Yeah. I wish I had years ago, but I'm too old and I can't change now.
I get burnt out on it.
Well, that's it. So we talked about the other drivers who can cause problems on the road because we spend so many more hours there than the average person, right?
Mm-hmm.
How often have you seen the other side of that coin where some jackass who's driving his company vehicle or her company vehicle,
like it's an F1 fucking track?
right?
Yeah.
Rolling billboard, phone numbers, address, driving like an asshole.
Yep.
Wait,
Lots.
What are you doing? Like they can call anytime. People have cell phone videos and cameras and car. What are you doing driving like a jerk with your company vehicle? I don't get that one, man.
Yep. Oh, dude, so many times. It goes both ways. You and I both drive commercial vehicles. Mm-hmm. Yours is GPS tracked.
It is.
So they will call you if you're speeding.
I get an almost immediate alert to both my phone email and my tablet that sits right beside me on my center console the second an air quotes event happens.
Right.
Burr, burr, burr.
Right.
Yeah, and for some reason, my phone gets it, and then there's like an 8-second delay, and then it shows up on my tablet. I assume that's because, as we talked in our episode about Apple versus Android, well, my tablet is an Android, so it's a little slower. But anyways, continue.
Get fucked.
Fuck you a little bit.
Fuck you a little bit. No, and my truck is not GPS tracked. The company's flat out said that they ain't GPS tracking our vehicles.
But there's no confusion on who you're working for.
No.
Right?
No. No.
Name,
oh, God, no.
Name, phone number. I don't know about you. We've got QR codes on ours. You got QR codes on yours? Okay.
I don't even have a phone number on mine.
Really?
They pulled them off.
See, I've never and will never say anything disparaging to my company on this podcast, but that's not a terrible idea. They could find you on the internet. Exactly. They don't need the phone number right there.
Exactly. But what is so funny is when you see the guys, I see it more at the end of the day.
Oh, okay. Continue. Don't let me stop on you.
And I have a theory on it.
Okay.
Right. It's the guys just trying to get the fuck home from a really shitty day and their mind's not in it and they're just driving and they're just driving. They don't give a shit about anything. They don't give a shit about anybody else. They just want to go home.
And I can appreciate that. I really can.
I can, but I can't.
Well,
that's my theory. It's a working theory.
It's a plausible working theory, buddy. So within an hour or two, for the last few years, you have started at basically the same time most mornings. Let's say it ranges sometime between 6 and 7, right? Yep. I can't say that.
Right. You're all over the map.
I go in early. I start later. I see a real gambit of traffic. What you're saying is probably true for the people you do see at the end of the day. I see just as much fit for people who are either running late or whatever it is in the morning.
True.
And here's what made me notice after getting in a company vehicle the last couple of years. They should know better when they cut off another company vehicle.
Yeah.
It's fucking me. It's plastered all over the side. You should know better. Right. You're not cutting off some random citizen or a semi, which you shouldn't do. Yeah. That's one of the big problems, right? But man, you got to know better than that. Like, do you? I always look at the people and go, well, that guy assumes, or gal. I'm going to stop saying that today, folks. When I say guys, I mean everybody in construction.
Person.
It's a person, right? I don't know why I have to justify that these days and age, but here we are, folks.
Here we go.
I just assume that person thinks, well, that guy ain't going to call me out. He's another construction person who's driving it.
Yeah.
But not if you're going to be a fucking cunt and cut me off all the time. Like, fuck, man.
Right.
So that one always kind of surprised me. I mean, I can see if I can see if you didn't care and you've been doing the job for a while and you were comfortable that you always drive like this and you never got a call to the shop or blah, 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 right?
Right.
But I mean, how many potential customers are you cutting off doing that?
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a rolling billboard. We're advertising for our companies. You should probably think about that before you drive like a fucking moron.
That's kind of what I was getting at here. Yeah. I'm glad we're kind of on the same page there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I would think that most people have an attitude like you or I where you don't want to have those conversations. Not to mention the fact, if you're driving on the road for your company, getting there in one piece, there's no reason to rush.
Right.
If you left late, that's a simple matter of changing your alarm by 10 minutes, 15. Right. If you can't do that, you might not be cut out for working for a living anywhere because everyone expects you to be on time. So if you're driving like a jerk because of that, okay.
Right.
So again, we don't want this to be, go ahead.
No, and guys, driving commercial vehicles, driving like a civilized human with other drivers on the road doesn't make you a company man if you're in a company vehicle.
True.
Right? It just makes you a decent fucking human.
Right.
Right. And it's not about, oh, hey, I've got this company vehicle. I can kind of do whatever. Motherfucker, they can pull that company vehicle from you just as easy as they gave it to you.
Yeah. People tend to think that once they're there, a lot of them, not everybody, thinks, well, I'm bulletproof now. I got a company. I'm a company man now.
Right.
Yeah, you are when you got the vehicle, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
No. None of us are. We're all replaceable.
Listen, none of us are, right? We've talked about it before.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, so you talk about the company man thing, man, that brings up a good point, actually. You want to be a quote-unquote company man, right?
Right.
But when you're accepting, whether it's what we just talked about, you accept a company vehicle and the responsibility comes with that. You accept working on the road and the responsibility and benefits that come with that, right? Mm-hmm. These are the things that can ingratiate you with a company.
Right.
Now, some guys will give you grief. Oh, yeah, look at the shop rock. You're a company man now. It's not about...
It's usually out of jealousy.
It's usually out of jealousy, right? So that's the trade-off of company man or not, right? It's the guilt versus security argument.
Right.
Do you let your company convince you to maybe take some jobs that you wouldn't have taken, whether it's a little further to drive every day or whether you're actually out of town, versus security of, well, I did right by my company when they asked me to help out with this out-of-town job, so I'm going to do that. A lot of people have a really piss-poor attitude when it comes to that choice.
Right.
Like you said, they'll look down on you, they'll be jealous about whatever factor, right? Oh, you get out of town and make that out-of-town money. Yeah, I said yes. You can say yes.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't ask me. Well, then you're not in the best position yet to be working on the road for your company.
And then you should probably be asking other questions besides that.
Right, yeah. Yeah, don't ask me why you're not getting a benefit that you think you deserve. Right. If you have to ask that question, ask it to the people who make the decisions, because if I'm driving a company truck and working in North Dakota for the next 3 weeks, you know what? I'm not fucking in charge.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just working like you, man. I just happen to get picked for a different job. Yep. Yeah, for the people who have that attitude, I always try to like put them in a good place of, hey, man, they didn't guilt me into doing the job. I'm not trying to be a company man. I'm trying to be a good employee and make up for the benefits that I've been offered and live with the fact that as construction workers, we're going to be driving a lot.
I would say that when it comes down to which commercial guys I've seen drive like assholes the most, I'd say plumbers.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go there. Okay.
Yeah, I'd say plumbers.
All right, you want to go down a dark road, buddy? I'm fucking in. We're going to go down a dark road here. You're going to regret bringing this up. All right, so you say plumbers. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm going to say semi-drivers in general. Over the road, guys pulling a trailer. Man, I see a lot of them making bad swerves, cutting me off, cutting other people off, last minute lane change. I mean, I understand they're driving too fast. Like, I understand they're at a schedule, right?
There's a chunk of that is because of other drivers in front of them.
I'm willing to accept that, right? But if you say plumbers, I'm going to say tractor trailer drivers.
You're going to say OTRs.
I'm going to say over the road guys. Yeah, that'd be my thing.
You know, I see where you're coming from. I do. But
that's also a numbers game. There's more OTR drivers than there is plumbing trucks, right?
Well, that we're around
because with all the time we spent on the road, right? That's also I also see the numbers of that. And let's be honest, man, the last 2 years especially, my miles and your miles. My miles is a big number.
Oh, yeah.
Compared
vastly
to your miles,
different.
buddy, right? Yeah. Right. Windshield time, you'll hear people talking about it. If you haven't gotten the trades yet and you're thinking about it, windshield time is a big thing.
Especially service drivers, right?
Yep. And I mean, I know it's a smaller percentage of the construction industry, but especially for the people who are service drivers, man, you don't have to drive 75 miles an hour to the next job. You're getting paid to drive there. That's why they call it windshield time. Calm down.
And okay, so another reason about the fucking semi drivers, and I guarantee a lot of truck drivers out there is actually going to agree with me on this. It's the type of people that are now driving truck.
Oh yes, it sure is.
Motherfuckers that can hardly read English,
that happens.
Hardly speak English, and don't have a brain cell that actually connects to their fucking spinal cord.
Yeah, those things don't compare with the fact that they don't speak English or anything. But yes, the amount of people that they've been willing to take into OTR driving now.
Yeah. It's fucking horrible.
Even when I first got into the trades, you could look at a person and go, that guy's in the truck that's parked out. You could pick him out.
He's a truck driver.
It was a real small percentage of people. It was a real stereotypical group of that guy's driving truck. Okay.
And I'll say it out there. I'll put it out there and I'll get canceled. I don't fucking care. Amazon is the fucking problem. They created this fucking issue. Fuck Amazon all the way off to fuck off mountain.
They might not have created this issue, buddy, but they added to it. That's for sure. Listen, you're onto that. Now, you brought up the darkness. I'm going to go even darker. Okay, buddy?
Okay.
We talked about some generalized company. You said a plumber. I said OTR truckers, whatever. Right? But let's not talk about commercial for a minute because we tried to focus on that. Mm-hmm. If we were to talk about just day-to-day drivers, I'm going to tell you, I have seen lots of time on the road, folks, and here's what I can tell you, okay? If you drive an Audi or an Infiniti, you don't know how turn signals work.
BMWs too.
I've seen a bit of that, right? But what I see more with BMWs is they believe their vehicles are much shorter than they are because they cut back in front of you so close. I think their mirrors must tell them they're 50 feet away when they're scraping paint half the time. BMW drivers are the worst for cutting you off short the last minute. Yep. They get just ahead of you, fuck the pole right. Fuck the BMW drivers for that, all right? And if we really want to try to get canceled today, buddy, I see specific age groups within genders, both genders now. I'm going to qualify here in a second. And I see some other stereotypical groups that are awful drivers, all right? Young men between the age of first got their license and about 22 are fucking brutal. Yep. A lot of them have bigger vehicles than they need. It's a lot more pickups. It's a lot more SUVs. It's a lot more
see it over the fucking
muscle
wheel.
Cars where they can barely see over the wheel. Right? There's a lot more of that. That age group is terrible. Yep. Almost knocked the mic over, folks.
They're passionate here. Ego.
I'm moving our hands around. I'm getting passionate.
You are really into this.
I am charged up. And then on the female side of it, it seems to be the age group between about 30 and 45 who almost always are in some state of distraction, whether it's fucking with the radio or I see them doing something on their phone or I watch them swerve a few times and then see they keep leaning their head down. We've all seen that on the road. Those are the two groups I see. And as far as the cultural groups, I ain't even going to get into that because that would definitely not go well.
No, that'll cancel us.
Yeah.
So I have a story.
Please.
I was a dick. So I was driving down the road. This was years ago. I was probably 30. Maybe 30. Driving down the road, looking in my rearview mirror, and this lady is behind me in a Jeep. She has both of her hands up, she's putting her hair up, and I know she's driving with a fucking knee.
Oh, yes.
We're doing 50 miles an hour down the road, and she's got both her hands up, working on her hair. I slammed down my fucking brakes. I just brake checked the fuck out of her. And all I could think of in my mind was, you could have taken the 5 minutes and do that to fuck it home.
Yes. And we could give you another 100 examples of that same sort of thing, right? I have seen people swerve or get in actual physical like bumping other cars and things, right?
Right.
Taking food out of what is obviously a fast food bag.
Yep.
I have seen people watching videos on their phone in their phone holder that we'd have for our GPS or whatever.
Yep.
Fucking YouTube, not watching where you're going, right?
Right.
I've seen that. I've seen people who didn't understand the rules of the road in any way, shape, or form, who were driving a either ridiculously fast or insanely low speed for the conditions.
Right.
It's rain or snow is what I'm getting at, right? Where all of a sudden somebody's driving 25 because it's flurrying.
Yep.
Flurrying.
And the roads are still dry.
What are we fucking doing here?
Right.
Right? So we see that sort of thing, right?
Right.
That stuff, yeah. You can, if you spend enough time on the road, it actually, listen, I can't take credit for this. This is a famous comedian named Theo Vaughn, but his sentiment was exactly how I felt. And I didn't know I felt it until he said it. Listen, I'm not racist, but I have some incidents on the highway sometimes.
Yeah.
Some flare-ups, I think, is exactly what he said, right?
And some flare-ups on the highway sometimes.
Right, I'm not racist, but I've seen enough stuff on the highway to know. Right. There's groups that I could generalize if I had to.
Dude, and you know, I've done stupid shit on the road.
Yeah,
I'm not above being like, okay, yeah, I fucked that up. You know, I have gotten a reckless driving ticket when I was a kid.
As did I.
You know, and stuff like that. But at the same time, with the amount of people that are out there on these roads, and God love the guys that are working on 494 in the Twin Cities right now.
Fuck,
right?
Man.
God love the guys. They're doing a fantastic job. They have that whole fucking stretch torn apart. They're still keeping traffic going.
Yeah, working 6 days a week, right? Every Saturday.
Right.
Right.
And they're doing a great job. The people driving through that need to pull their heads out of their asses and realize they're going to get somebody killed.
Absolutely.
I drove through that today, and I stayed in my center lane, and I was right behind a semi, and I was perfectly fine. And everybody was cutting the semi off and doing stupid shit. Yeah, I watched him slam on his brakes 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, thank God there isn't more road workers killed. It could be a counter every day on the nightly news, right?
There shouldn't be any ever.
There shouldn't be any ever, right? Yeah. But I fall all that back to, it's all about how you're being watched and how you're being regulated. And I have been on the road plenty my whole life, and especially the last 2 years.
Yep.
I don't see that many people pulled over for driving like jerks. Now, I have been lucky. I've been there 3 times now where somebody was cutting in and out and driving too fast and being a dickhead, and the cop was right there and they didn't see them. They got pulled over 3 times in my career, and all 3 times I was the dude from The Big Lebowski pounding on my roof, go, fuck yeah, get that motherfucker, right? Like, I've been there, okay?
Yep. More times than not, it's where's a cop where you need
Where's the cop when you need one, right? So that's what it comes down to.
Yep.
So, all right, side tangent there.
There was zero pros and cons out of this episode. I just want to
we're gonna get to that. I'm not letting you off the hook with that. Yeah, no, we're gonna come to that here. I got a couple quick points I wanted to hit, and then we're gonna wrap this up before it gets crazy. And you say the pros and cons thing. We did have to kind of get to that. So the word of the day, and we didn't bring it up only once earlier. You brought it up, but it should be the word of the day because I said in a previous episode the 2 greatest letters in the history of construction are T and M, time and money, right?
Yep.
But per diem is also one of the greatest words in construction for the people who, whether through they have to do it or they want to do it, man, that per day money when you're working out of town.
Oh, yeah.
Ooh,
it can be,
baby.
You do it right, and it could be a moneymaker for you.
Right.
Done right. Now, that is per diem pay is to cover meals and lodging while you're on the road.
Yeah, per day, so daily expenses. Per day, you should need to have a comfortable week, 6, 12 months working wherever, right? Yeah.
Yep. And so, I mean, do it right and it can make you money.
Well, and the do it right is what it comes down to, right? My old man was the one who said this to me years ago, that distance equals cash.
Mm-hmm.
The further you are, the more that you're going to have to make for you in your head to make it worth your while to work at that place, right?
Yep.
So within most people in construction in the industry, you're within 45 minutes, an hour of almost every project you ever do, sometimes less if you're real lucky.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But the further that distance gets, you need to decide how you need to be compensated for being away from your family,
Yep.
out of your own bed, don't get to see your friends. Even if you're single, that's time away from home. No one's bed is ever as good as your bed.
Oh, no. God, no. Your bed is your king.
You
oh,
could
God.
sleep on pallets with a blanket, but it's your sounds, your home, your bed.
Yep.
That doesn't compare to being at the nicest, comfiest, fluffy feather bed at a Marriott out of town because, man, you're out of town.
Yep.
So
you're away from your norm.
You're away from your norm. So
Make it worth it.
Oh, right. Make it worth it. That's exactly it, buddy. Yep. So, again, I'm not letting you off the hook. We're going to wrap this up here, folks, but we got one more thing to go through. Whether it's driving a little further from your house than you usually want to, or actually working on the road. You're out of town. You're staying there a few days during the week, whatever it is, right? Pros and cons, buddy. So let's start with pros. What are the pros of not only the distance from your house, if you got to spend some time driving to your job site or working out of town? Give me, doesn't have to be in order. Give me your top 3 pros.
Top 3 pros. All right. Well, we know what I'm going to say.
I'm curious how we're going to match up here, buddy.
All right. I'm going with making money, right? That's number 3 because I don't put that high on my list. Okay. So I'm going to go in reverse order.
Okay.
3 to 1. Number 3, making money. Number 2, seeing cool shit. Getting out of your norm.
Fascinating. Keep going.
Right. You get to see different areas, different projects, different things, how people do things differently in different areas of the country.
It is important if you want to be professional. You got to see different ways. Yeah, keep going, buddy.
And then my top pro for working out of town, that's kind of a hard one, but my top would have to be...
Dead air is great podcasting, folks.
Get used to the silence. Be okay with the pause. I would have to say the humbling of it.
How so?
Because when you work out of town, you start learning things about yourself. You can find out whether you really are an over the road kind of guy or gal or person, and what exactly home means, because we lose that.
Okay, so could I paraphrase what you said? If I was to use the words helps you appreciate home, would that be fair to sum up what you're trying to get at here?
Yes.
Your list and my list is exactly the fucking opposite.
Really?
I had my number 3 as help you to appreciate home, and you were trying to articulate that as your number 1.
Yes, that's exactly what I was trying to...
My number 2 was good experiences, learning things on the road, and my number 1 was making that money, baby.
Oh, funny shit.
We were flip-flopped.
Oh, funny shit.
Serendipitous, folks. That worked out even better than I had hoped. All right, so that's great.
We couldn't even plan that.
So we have the same 3 ideas. We just put those in different priorities. Mm-hmm. And as we've mentioned before, folks, John and I have different lifestyles. He's got kids and all this, and right. So I can see those particular things flip-flopping a little. In my head, if I'm going to be out of town and away from my wife that I love and away from my bed every night, I better be getting paid for that.
Yeah.
But it's super funny that those were just exactly... I have got it written down. I might even put that on socials. It's exactly the opposite.
That is funny.
All right, so cons. You started the other cons. You started the pros. I'll start the cons.
Yep.
Okay? So 3 to 1, same as you did, all right? I know this is going to seem ironic because I had this as my number 3. But being away from home is a real con.
Yep.
Especially if you have kids and stuff like that. I mean, that's a whole other dynamic than my spouse and I have, right? But being away from home is still being away from everything that's known and comfortable to you. Not just your bed, but that's where your grocery store. And as I thought about this episode, I thought about the real specifics. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to find a grocery store, a liquor store, a movie theater, or whatever. I got to buy new socks.
Right.
You know those things in your place. The comfort level of just being near town it's not appreciated as much until you're out of town. And not having those things for me was a real con.
Yep.
All right. Number 2 was, yeah, you can be out of town. You can be working the long hours as we talked about before because you're already out of town. You may as well work as much as you can until you tip over, right?
Yep.
That doesn't always balance out when it comes to the deductions and the taxes on the paycheck.
Right.
It ain't dollar for dollar. You might be getting pinned for spending or making a few bucks in a different state. They might tax you a hair different. Per diem, often various states gets taxed at a different level, things like that, right? Or you just get paid different amounts, right? That was the second one for me. And the first one was you're always working those long hours working out of town because it only makes sense. But just because something makes sense doesn't mean it's great.
Yep.
Man, yeah. Okay, you're here, you're stuck. Do you want to work 8 hours and then go back and sit in a hotel room or go to some strange bar or bomb around town that you don't know? That could be exciting and fun and a good experience, but after the first couple of weeks,
right,
it's just another place.
Just another person.
You may as well keep working all those hours. That can drag you down because you feel like I may as well fucking do it because I'm already here.
Right.
So what about you, man? What do you think of the cons?
The cons, 3-1. Yeah. My number 3 is identical as yours. It's you're away from home. You're
Fucking
away from
sucks,
your family. My kids, they were my linchpin when I was working out of town. That's why I quit, is I couldn't be away from my kids anymore. I would come home and try to grab my baby girl that was still a baby, try to hold her. She didn't even know me. She would scream Bloody Mary until I gave her back to mom. It was absolutely heart-wrenching. Don't do that.
That doesn't sound fun.
No. Number 2, I mean, I understand where you're coming from with the taxes and the extra expenses and shit like that, but done right, I think you can probably get around a little bit of that. With the long work, extra taxes and shit, Uncle Sam's Uncle Sam. He's going to be a dick. He's going to take your money whether you like it or not. But as far as my number 2 would probably have to be the kind of guys and gals that you tend to work around. Everybody's in a bad fucking mood. Everybody.
I'm going to come back to that. Keep going.
Everybody's in a bad mood. When you're away from home from a long time, there's not anything that you can do about it. You're going to get sour. You're going to get bitter. Right? Unless you got the lifers that live on the road, and then those guys are a totally different duck.
That's a different breed. Yeah, that's a different breed there.
Yeah. And then cons, my number 1 con would probably have to be just the travel.
Getting there, getting back.
It sucks, man. Fucking, because we're usually driving. Some guys are lucky enough if they do a lot of OTR, and it's not even OTR, just travel work for a company, they're getting flown. Right. There's a lot of guys that fly to a site.
There's a lot of guys that do that. I've seen those guys over the years. Sure. Yeah.
But just the travel's a fucking headache. I hate it. Packing up, unpacking, packing up, unpacking. Shoot me in the head.
Dude, now that you say that, man, that should have made my list, because now that you mention that was a real drag. As your weekend winds down, if you're working somewhere close enough, because this doesn't always happen either, that you can travel there at a reasonable time on the weekend, come back, be home for Friday night, Saturday night, whatever, right? Yeah, spent the day with the spouse, the kids, had a good time on a Sunday, and now they're just winding down to bed, and you're looking at your watch going, well, I guess I better get on the road for the next 4 to 6 to whatever hours to go back to where I got to do and have a couple hours of sleep. Yeah, you make a real good point, buddy. That one should have made my list. Because I have been in that real quick story before we wrap up here, folks. I did some time working in Iowa a couple of years ago. Left Sunday night, got down there, stayed the night, worked the week, left Friday, come back, right? It was FaceTime conversations that weren't the same as sitting on the couch with your spouse. Yep. There was text messages before bed that don't carry the same weight as grabbing a hold of your partner and going, hey, sweet dreams, I love you.
Yep.
Yeah, man, you make a good point. That one should have made my list. But hey, what are you going to do?
Right.
It's all about, as you mentioned, working the system and the rules properly so that you make at least good amount of money while you're not around the people you want to be around.
Right. And if you're one of those people that, and I guess my closing thoughts on this whole deal is having to work over the road. If you're one of those people that really love it, you don't have ties. You don't have a spouse usually. You don't have
you fucking hate them.
Or you hate them. Your kids are grown, or if you don't have any,
right.
Stuff like that. Or you're a youngin', like you're a greenhorn. Make your money.
That's the moment to get on the road. If you get on the road as a young person, good point, buddy.
But just be smart about it. I want to preference that to all the young people that want to do over the road work. Be smart about it. Don't get into shit that you shouldn't be getting into. Right? Don't get into all the bad shit. Because, dude, when we're 20s, we're dumb. Yeah, everybody's retarded.
And there is a strange amount of people who are kind of perpetual or often road workers who are a bit off.
Mm-hmm.
Don't learn life lessons from dudes and gals who are perpetual on the road workers. There's a reason they don't want to be at home.
Right.
There's something weird there. Like, it's different if you want to do it to help yourself out or whatever. But yeah, you got to watch them people. Yep. Somebody never wants to be at home. There's some serial killer vibes there sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, what's the chance of two serial killers being together at the same time?
Dude, it's my favorite video on the internet. John takes a weird tangent there. If you haven't seen this, folks, there's a joke going around now that somebody gets in the back of the Uber and says, "Aren't you ever worried that you might pick up a serial killer?" And the driver says, "Come on now. What are the odds there'd be two serial killers in the same car?" I think about it every time I get in an Uber now.
That's great.
I love it.
That's great.
That's good stuff, man.
But I like the brain fart by Jason. No, man. So do you have any other closing thoughts on this? Do you want to wrap up in a certain way?
We bounced around quite a bit of stuff here. Obviously, we had a few tangents, folks, which if you listen to the episodes before, that's the way we go. Basically, that whether you're driving a reasonable distance to get to your job site every day or whether you're actually working on the road, there are some benefits and some drawbacks to this. You have to balance this out in your life if you want to work construction. There's no way around that. And working a distance from home is no less difficult than if you're actually working out of town on the road, because if you're an hour from town and you work an 8.5-hour day or more, which most of us often do, that's an extra 2 hours on your day that you're not with your family at home, with your friends, spending time on your own, trying to be patient, as we mentioned, with all the jackass drivers on the road. And then the same thing with being out of town, the travel to get to where you're going, getting back, the balance of, is it worth going home this weekend? Should I just stay and work some more? Because sometimes you can do that out of town as well. Yeah. I can't come home this weekend. I can work Saturday and Sunday and make another 2 days of double time or whatever, right? Take the time, balance in your life what you're happy with, what you're willing to give up for the benefit, because the benefit for us is either money or security with your company, because you've proved, as we talked about earlier, that you're a quote-unquote company person, right? You do that equation in your head, you make that balance, talk to the people in your life, your spouse, your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, whatever, see if it's worth it. That would be my biggest thing, is take stock of what you get versus what you give up, and only you can tell yourself if that was worth it for the money. That'd be what I would say. I couldn't have said it better, man. But I think that's probably going to do it for today. I think that sums it up. This was a long one, folks. All right. Yeah. I want to just take a minute. My call to action for everybody, if you're still listening to the end of this, one, we really appreciate you. Two, thank you, everybody. Rate, review, and subscribe if you would. Give us a like. Takes a hot second just to hit the thumb. But head over to our website and find all of our links and socials and emails and phone numbers and everything there. Send us messages. Talk to us. Let us know that you're around, and I would actually be over the moon. Yeah, please, everybody. If you do nothing else this week, other than John said, rate, review, and subscribe, tell one person. If we made you laugh one time today, tell a friend. That small little thing helps this little podcast grow, and who knows, that might be the one person we need to listen to us that'll break this whole thing open. Absolutely. Not to mention the fact that for all the people who have been listening, John and I really wanted to say quick thank you. This is a small little podcast, and it's podcast, and it's growing slowly, but as it grows, we appreciate everybody who's been with us from the beginning. If you have anything you want us to talk about, let us know. We'll get it. It doesn't have to be construction related. John and I'll get into whatever you want.
Sure.
Especially if it's something we disagree on, because it's fun to argue with them.
Right.
Thank you, everybody, for listening from the job trailer again this week. We really appreciate you. Be safe out there. As John and I always say, that your work keeps the world working. I know we say it as our motto, but think about that for a split second today. It really is true. Your work keeps the world working.
Yep.
What else could you really want from your career?
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Be safe, and sláinte, buddy.
Sláinte.